Good evening, you're watching Breaking Today News right here on Switch TV. I am Lincoln Wambogo, our sign language interpreter is Tracy Dorcas. We have a lot in line for you tonight, but first let's take a look at the headlines. Now send in your feedback to our SMS line 1114441 at Switch TV Kenya and at Lincoln Wambogo on all social media handles. Now, Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission IEBC has kicked off a 30-day registration exercise across the country to register new voters ahead of the 2022 general elections. IEBC Chairperson Wafula Chebukati says the commission is targeting to enlist at least 6 million new voters, mainly the youth. Chebukati has, however, insisted that students from colleges and universities do not need to travel to homes to register. Daniel Karaoke with his story.
The journey ahead of the August 9, 2022 general elections today stopped at its first stage for a 30-day mass voter registration exercise, targeting at least 6 million unregistered voters countrywide.
27,241 registration centers which have been gazetted today countrywide.
Spread across the 47 counties, IEBC registrars were stationed at every ward. We visited one of the wards in Nairobi County at the Moi Avenue Primary School, where we met this stranded Kenyan.
Kuja hapa kwa shughuli ya kubadilisha ID yangu mahali ambapo nitapigia kura, lakini wamenikataza, haiwezekani hadi niende kwa ofisi.
You are required to go to the constituency IEBC office. That is where the change.
A low turnout was, however, noted despite the calls by the government, politicians and various political parties targeting voters.
Most important patriotic duty and get a voter's card so that they can decide the type of government.
And these youths, upon verification, should be automatically registered and issued the ID cards.
Monday to Monday, that is all the days within the 30 days.
Despite the commission lamenting over the shortage of the biometric voter registration kits required for the exercise, it has deployed at least 3 kits to each of the 1,450 wards to facilitate the exercise.
These kits will be open. The students will be able to register from the universities and colleges.
IEBC is in the race of increasing the number of registered voters from the current 19.6 million to 26.9 million. That is, if it meets the 6 million new voter target.
The first-time voters would to be who have recently acquired national identity cards but are yet to register as voters to turn up.
Despite the low voter turnout to average, Kenyans are still being called on by the IEBC to turn up in large numbers as they have a deadline of 29 days to register as Kenyan voters as the clock ticks to the 2022 general elections. Daniel Karaoke for Switch TV, Nairobi County.
Thank you, Daniel Karaoke, for opening the reports first. The Ministry of Health has extended the dusk to dawn curfew for the next 30 days effective today in a bid to roll out mass vaccination. These camps in the midst of the ongoing daily political gatherings contrary to the protocol set by the Ministry of Health. Flora Limuki with more details.
The government has extended the nationwide 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. curfew for another 30 days, as well as ban on public gatherings till early November 2021. This comes at a time when politicians are busy rallying across the country in preparedness for next year's general elections.
There will be an extension effective today of the containment measures, including the curfew hours that are there. And this is for 2 reasons. Number 1 is that we are still, as far as the positivity rate is concerned, we are still above the WHO recommended figures in terms of a 2 weeks period when you have got less than 5% of positivity rate at a high testing level.
Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe has urged community health workers to help in sensitizing the public on importance of vaccine and conduct vaccination campaigns as the ministry targets to vaccinate 10 million people by December 2021.
We need to ensure that as many people in this country have been vaccinated as possible. It is the only way we can be able to fully open our economy.
At the same time, KAGU has launched COVID-19 online portal in partnership with the Media Council of Kenya to promote creation of awareness about coronavirus.
I also want to thank the Media Council, who we now work very closely as government and are able to ensure that the fourth estate is also able to provide citizens with verified information. You said we should not talk about fake news.
It is with these few remarks that I now declare the Media Council COVID-19 Information Portal officially launched.
At the moment, about 5,000 people have succumbed to COVID-19. Flora Limuki, Switch TV.
Thank you, Flora Lemuki. Elsewhere, Deputy President William RUTO has slammed constitutional amendment frontiers with a BBI move that was termed unconstitutional by the high and appellate courts. In an ironical comment during his 3-day tour to the Gusii land, the Deputy President has criticized his competitors, stating that they have no agenda for the country and are only interested in creating and sharing positions at the expense of serving the common monarchy, lauding his economic model for change that the country needs. Take a look.
Tuanze na wale jobless kabla hatujashughulikia wale wanatafuta mamlaka. Tuanze na wale biashara yao ni kidogo kama mama mboga kabla hatujaongea vile viongozi watagawana vyeo. That is what we are saying. Tunakubaliana tuanze na bottom up ama mnataka iendelee mambo ya zamani ya kutusumbua na mambo ya kubadilisha katiba? Ndio tunasema bottom up, tubadilishe kwanza uchumi. Tukibadilisha uchumi, mwenye hana kazi atapata kazi.
Still on matters politics, ODM party leader Raila Odinga has received a major boost on his presidential ambitions by the UPA movement party led by Treasury Cabinet Secretary Ukur Yatani. Odinga, who took his presidential campaign to Garissa today, has promised the people of Northeastern that they will have their security beefed up and more youth educated and offered decent jobs if he clinches the presidency. Our senior political reporter Joel Chacha narrates.
On his second day tour in the northeastern region, ODM party leader Raila Odinga, today while popularizing his Azimio la Umoja initiative in Garissa County, was installed as Somali elder, dressed with beautiful clothing and given instruments of power. Odinga's 2022 bid has received a boost after leaders allied to President Uhuru Kenyatta under the UPA movement led by Treasury Cabinet Secretary Ukur Yatani rallied behind him.
The challenge of Northern Kenya is with yourselves, because we do not have one common voice. And it's that common voice that we want to enshrine, that we all have it.
Odinga has promised the northeastern leaders the area generally marginalized since independence that they will be given a special focus on key sectors including security and education.
Kwa hiyo sisi tunasema eneo hii inaweza kuinuka.
Deputy President William Ruto's wheelbarrow politics were also faulted, with Odinga promising the youth a better future through creation of job opportunities.
You do not promise them digital jobs now, you atumwambia hawa ati kazi ni kazi. Ati sasa tunataka kuwapatia hawa wheelbarrow. Hiyo sio ngwana.
The meeting in Garissa was attended by several leaders, among them area governor Ali Korane, his Kakamega counterpart Wycliffe Oparanya, and Siaya Senator James Orengo and delegates from Garissa, Wajir, Isiolo Marsabit and Mandera. Joel Chacha, Switch TV, Nairobi.
Joel Chacha, thank you. A representative group of teachers from across the 47 counties are calling on the immediate resignation of non-teachers from all teachers' unions. The teachers have blamed the incorporation of non-teachers in unions, citing that these has derailed the progress and performance of teachers, institutions and unions. Some of the leaders include Emuhaya Member of Parliament Mboko Milemba, Secretary General for Kupet Akelo Misori, among others. Shilling-a-Teach with more details.
Just a day before teachers congregate at the Kenya Institute of Development for the yearly conference, a group of teachers is calling for the removal of some key leaders at the helm of teachers' unions.
Teachers' power. Power.
The pressure group, claiming representatives from the 47 counties, are blaming the non-teachers' involvement in union matters for all the failures that have been and continue to hamper the smooth handling of teachers' welfare.
Having seen the so-called Secretary General Kupet and the Secretary General Nat sandwiching Nancy Macharia in the middle, making her feel very warm when teachers are feeling cold outside. Teachers are not happy.
The pressure group has given the named leaders an ultimatum of 7 days, failure to which they say they will seek for available legal options.
We are going to petition signatures from the teachers across the 47 countries and take it to Parliament for it to look into it.
However, in a move that will rattle the Teachers Service Commission, the section of teachers has strongly opposed the proposals by TSC that require teachers to undertake mandatory professional development programs to attain promotion and professional growth, terming the move as unconstitutional.
Teachers are of contrary opinion because they were not involved in the development of the teacher professional development modules as earlier agreed in 2017. Hence, the rollout of teacher professional development program in its current form should be stopped with immediate effect.
In the recent past, there have been wrangles in the teachers' unions that saw the ouster of former NAT Secretary General Wilson Sossion, who was nominated by the ODM party to represent the union in Parliament. Shilangetich, Switch TV.
Teachers power. Teachers power.
Shilangetich. President Uhuru Kenyatta has responded to allegations by the global investigative piece dubbed the PANDORA Papers, published by International Consortium of International Journalists ICIJ. The family of Kenya's first president and President Uhuru Kenyatta, that has dominated the country's politics since independence, secretly owned a network of offshore companies for decades. According to the report, 12 million files is the biggest such leak in history. Kenyatta and 6 members of his family have been linked to 13 offshore accounts.
My attention has been drawn to comments surrounding the Pandora Papers. Whilst I will respond comprehensively on my return from state visit to America, let me say this. These are the words of Kenya's head of state, President Uhuru Kenyatta, while responding to the leaked files from 14 offshore service providers to more than 330 public officials, including 35 world leaders, to offshore fortunes published by the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, ICIJ. The world leaders named in the leaked Pandora Papers of almost 12 million documents that alleges hidden wealth, tax avoidance, and in some cases money laundering by some of the world's richest and powerful are the monarch of Jordan, close allies of Pakistan Prime Minister, the former British Prime Minister, and our very own President Uhuru Kenyatta. The report found that Kenya's first family has amassed of over 30 million USD, equivalent of 3 billion shillings, in one of the offshore accounts, including a high-end property in London, UK.
There's no indication or suggestion in our reporting that this is indeed illegal, but I think we have certainly asked the King, why were these purchases made through shell companies? Why has none of this been disclosed publicly?
The Kenyatta family is among the high-profile individuals linked to more than 11.9 files where they began to accumulate much of its offshore wealth while President Uhuru Kenyatta was a rising political star. The daring global investigative piece was done by over 600 reporters in 150 media outlets based in 117 countries.
This is a president who, for many years, and even a few years ago, sat down with a BBC interviewer and said, if anyone has something to tell us that we haven't been transparent about, let them tell us. And I suppose today with the Pandora Papers, we're doing just that.
The Pandora Papers, however, show no evidence that the Kenyatta family stole or hid state assets in their offshore companies. But President Uhuru Kenyatta says, and I quote, the Pandora Papers and subsequent follow-up audits will lift that veil of secrecy and darkness for those who cannot explain their assets or wealth. The president further saying, and I quote, These reports will go a long way in enhancing the financial transparency and openness that we require in Kenya and around the globe. End of quote. A search of public records in BVI and Panama found that most of the companies linked to the Kenyatas are now dormant, some of them as a result of a non-payment of regulatory fee. This investigation by the ICIJs, however, did not find any evidence or proof of the mentioned leaders breaking any law. Safi Godanamamu, Switch TV.
Thank you, Safi Gadana Mamu, for that story. I'd like to know your thoughts on the Pandora Papers leak. Send in your feedback through our SMS line 111 444 or Switch TV Kenya and a link on Ombogo. We now take a short commercial break. Stay tuned. After this is Know Your CEO, Equity Group Managing Director and CEO Dr. James Mwangi is our guest. Stay tuned. Welcome back and thank you for keeping it Switch TV. On this week's episode of Know Your CEO, we get to interact with Equity Group Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer Dr. James Mwangi. Dr. Mwangi addresses a wide range of issues including how the bank has remained resilient over the COVID-19 pandemic period, its entry into other African countries, Kenya's debt situation and the lighter side of the prolific banker. Take a look. Ever want to know how a CEO sees his world? And here's how. Apart from running an organization and strategizing, their key role is to ensure there is money in the bank. Our CEO this week is Equity Group Managing Director and CEO Dr. James Mwangi. Dr. Mwangi, thank you for creating time.
Thank you for having me.
Just to get straight into it, Dr. Mwangi, COVID-19 has really hit companies hard. Others have struggled with operations, others have even shut down. But Equity has opened more branches internationally. What has kept that light ablaze?
It's true that COVID-19 has had a devastating effect on the operating environment, and this has affected different companies differently. As an aggregator, playing the role of intermediation, taking from those who have excess and giving those who have deficits, our responsibility has been heightened to ensure that we keep the rights of the economies on. We ensure that all businesses survive. We approached the COVID from two perspectives. One was to be very defensive, ensure the bank was strong enough. We then withdrew dividend for 2019 and then didn't pay dividend for 2020. And that was an additional 20 billion shillings in foregone. So we became a very, very strong bank from ability to absorb shock. The essence of that was to ensure that we were able to support our 15 million customers. Looking back, we accommodated up to 45% of our customers, giving them moratoriums and payment breaks of up to 3 years to ensure that their businesses don't close. The second aspect was looking at the opportunities in the environment. As they say, never waste a good crisis. So we decided the next strategy will be to be offensive. And that is what you have referred to. That's when it made us take over quite a number of banks during that period on an opportunistic point, because we had the strength and the capability to do it, to save other businesses. And lastly was to ensure that we availed customers who needed to repurpose their businesses, to retool their business with the capital that could allow them to do transformation. And I'm sure you know of the 106 Kenyan businesses that we asked them to repurpose and produce PPEs. Those are some of the businesses have done well during this period.
Dr. MWANGI, you have not once, but more times, multiple times, say that Equity Bank is a bank of the people. Here in Kenya, you have ventured outside Kenya into Rwanda, into Congo. Dr. MWANGI, what motivated you to venture outside Kenya, and how has the customer base accepted Equity Bank outside Kenya?
Maybe this will require somebody looking back. I joined Equity when it was number 66 out of 66 in Kenya, with only 2,000 customers. Today we have 15 million customers. We are the largest bank in Eastern and Central Africa. And we felt that we had made a huge difference in Kenya. So we felt that we should not restrict ourselves and fail to support our neighbors. After all, our dream was an African dream. We are a systemic bank in Uganda, we are a systemic bank in Rwanda, we are a systemic bank in DRC. And in all our top 5 markets, including South Sudan, we're in the top 5 banks.
Equity Bank, Dr. MWANGI, are you looking to entering into more international markets?
Beyond the 7 countries that we have presence, in the medium-term dream is to be in 15 countries by 2025. But our focus in the medium term will be our home continent, Africa.
What innovative projects have you deployed to support businesses build effective operations, more so during this COVID-19 period?
Our history is one of innovations throughout. We transformed banking, we disrupted banking, we democratized banking by removing barriers to financial inclusion. We removed things like ledger fee, minimum balance, account opening balance, bureaucracy of introductions. So when the moment of COVID came, we realized the world has changed, and we needed to be sure that we made it easier for people. Today, 98% of all our banking transactions happen outside our premises. So it was that successful. I wish to say that COVID acted as a tailwind for adoption of online banking, particularly mobile banking.
The second part of this interview is called Quickfire. We get to know Dr. James Mwangi a bit away from the office. Maybe now we can loosen up. Dr. James Mwangi, what do you do beyond office?
A couple of things. One is storytelling. I'm a good storyteller. The second one that I do is occasionally going to enjoy nature. So you find me quite a lot in our lodges, tracking fauna and flora. And lastly, to keep healthy, is spending time in the gym.
Dr. Mwangi, please paint to us a brief picture of what a typical day like in your life is like, from the time you wake up, the time you go to sleep.
Normally wake up at 3 o'clock.
In the morning?
In the morning.
What do you do at that time?
That is the time to reflect and really do your personal assignment. The second one is 30 minutes in the gym. That is 5:30 to 6. And 6, dash to the shower and off at 6:30. You're heading out, and I'm normally in the bank latest at 7. Latest at 7. Work throughout the day. Majority of my time is in meetings and conversations with my colleagues and partners. And then at around 6:30, when the traffic jam has eased, try to find my way home. And normally, I'm at home at 7.
Dr. Mwangi, it would be bad if I did not ask you about Kenya's debt. Do you see this as a crisis in the waiting?
I don't see it as a crisis. Kenya has a debt to GDP ratio of 69%. And that seems to be the average of emerging markets. I look back and realize that over the last 15 years, that's when we have accumulated our debt. But the same 15 years, I've been privileged to have been the chairman of Kenya Vision 2030. And I've seen where the investments have gone. Those debts have gone into generating power or energy, as we call it. Those debts have gone to build our ports, roads, railways, our health infrastructure, our education infrastructure. So to a great extent, those debts are like investments. And when I took over the initiative during the technical team, Kenya was only a $10 billion economy. Today, Kenya is a $100 billion economy. We have grown 10 times. So essentially, you can correlate the debt. The question is, are we adequately using the investments that we have made?
What is that one thing that you have always kept constant in your conversations with your children?
I'm privileged to have an easy relationship with my children. Two things we always talk about. The first one is our value systems. The only thing that can keep them safe is the value systems that they choose to adopt. We talk a lot about purposeful life, living a life with an essence. Money follow the curve of diminishing value. Money is only as important as paying the bills. Money beyond paying bills has very little value to you. It is in the bank account and helping others who don't have money. That's the money they borrow. So when you look at it that way, when you look, when I was growing up, my greatest desire was to eat meat and to drink tea with sugar. I have not drank sugar for 30 years. I've not drank tea with sugar for 30 years. Then you start wondering the real place of money. And lastly is the desire. I am glad and thank God for helping me to manage my greed, to know when it is enough. So it is not about quantity, it's knowing when it is enough.
What's your favorite destination?
The most favorite destination is Masai Mara.
Masai Mara?
Masai Mara is my most favorite destination. When I want to unwind, I find chasing wildlife that you don't talk to.
Yes.
It gives me an opportunity to really have a proper downtime. And I think I've been in my Saimara 129 times over the last 25 years.
You keep tabs of the times that you've visited
Yes.
Masai Mara, and that's
Yes.
129 times.
129 times. I know at Kikrok, I've stayed in room 42, 48 times.
Dr. Mwangi, what is with you and numbers?
That's a very good question, but I thank God for giving me a photographic memory. What I'm really, really best at is numbers. And I have a very powerful retrieval mechanism, so I will be able to pull numbers on any subject that is of interest.
This is a challenge, because a majority of youth are watching right now. Give me 3 Sheng words.
Wow, that I don't want to make myself look stupid in front of my children. So allow me
Let me teach
not
you.
to take the offer.
Let me teach you one.
Yes, of course.
Kanairo.
I have no.
That's Nairobi.
Oh, Kanairo.
Yes.
Wow.
Kanairo is Nairobi.
Wow.
Mbogi.
Kanairo is Nairobi. Boogie.
Mbogi.
Bogi.
Mbogi. Mbogi is your squad, your gang, your friends. Mbogi.
Maybe we should stop the lessons there, because then that one I need then to be learning every day, because we are nothing but our references. The way I've been socialized, the way I've been exposed to maybe have a different differences, like to words. So I think that's a language that might be more difficult than French.
But now, because you're into numbers, I'll give you a last one.
Oh, yes.
50 bob is Chwani.
Chwani?
Yes.
No, Chwani would have a very different meaning to me, I'm sure. What? Yeah, interesting conversation. Wow. And you're able to oscillate both worlds?
Yes, comfortably.
Comfortably.
Born into both worlds.
You're able to anchor a conversation with James Mwangi where you speak the layman's language.
Comfortably.
You speak the money language.
Comfortably.
You speak the business language. And then you can still dive to the Cheng language.
Yes. Just like you, I
Until
thank the
lucky.
Lord. As we wind up, Dr. James Mwangi, what advice do you have for young entrepreneurs?
Thank you very much. So a great question. And maybe I would say this is one area I would like to make a greater contribution, and I would invite maybe conversations. So what I would really encourage young people is to appreciate, like the way they had to study chemistry and biology, they have to study the language and vocabulary of business. They have to understand the principles upon which business work. The concept of profit must be fully understood. The concept of cost, business cost, must also be understood. So once we understand these concepts, it becomes very easy to understand profit, to understand business. Business is both a science and an art. So the concept of science is what most people miss. They take the social aspect of business, they take the art part of business, but the science of business is where all of us need to invest a little bit more better, and that is about principles.
Dr. James Mwangi, that was a wonderful conversation, enlightening by all standards. I'd like you to sign out for us. This is your camera. Just say, the conversation on Know Your CEO continues next Monday.
The conversation, Know Your CEO, continue next Monday.
Many thanks for watching. Thank you, Dr. Mwangi. It's a wrap.
Indeed, that was a mouth-watering conversation with one of the greatest bankers of all time, Equity Group Managing Director and CEO Dr. James Mwangi. At least I go down in history as a man who taught James Mwangi what 20 years, and that is 50 bob. Many thanks to my producer, Brian Mwenda, and my camera person, Kevin Muhoho. Businesses making losses should be closing down. These are the words of Kenya Revenue Authority Commissioner General Githi Mburu while responding to High Court's decision to stop the taxmen from collecting minimum taxes. The taxman has added that the introduction of minimum taxes was a noble idea that would make sure that every Kenyan pays taxes. Our business reporter Brian Mwenda with more details.
Kenya Revenue Authority has defended the introduction of minimum taxes that seek to collect a tax at the rate of 1% of the gross turnover on loss-making businesses. This comes 2 weeks after the High Court stopped the authority from collecting the tax, forcing KRA to refund businesses millions of shillings collected since its introduction. With a number of loss-making businesses complaining about the newly introduced tax, the taxman is of the thought that these businesses should instead close down.
A business cannot continue making losses and not closing down, enjoying the services of this country and not paying a penny. Why should that be the case? While a person earning a salary of maybe 30,000 shillings is paying taxes, a business continues to make losses, it doesn't close down. Somebody says it is eating into capital. When you eat into your capital, you close down.
The man at the helm of the Times Towers-based agency adds that the authority is seeking to growing more tax base even as the economy continues to recover.
But we believe that even as we continue facing these challenges, we shall continue our measures of expanding the tax base.
Now, even as KRA looks into a more optimistic future, the message from the taxman is embrace for more taxes. Brian Mwenda, Switch TV, Times Towers, Nairobi.
Now time to get sporty. New Harambee Stars head coach ENGIN FIRAT has named his final travelling squad for the upcoming 2022 FIFA World Cup qualifier against Mali on Thursday. FKF Premier League Golden Glove winner James Seruni has once again been overlooked after being dropped despite his form in goal that saw him keep 12 clean sheets last season for his club Ulinzi Stars. Omar Mohammed with his story.
Kariobangi Sharks trio of Samuel Olwande, Patila Omoto and Sydney Lokale have also been dropped alongside Gor Mahia's youngster Frank Odhiambo. Wazito's Musa Masika, KCB's Regan Otieno and Bandari's Kigan Demi.
I will try to explain them what I expect from them. They have to adapt to me, the way we will play. And after this in Morocco, then the players who are outside will arrive. We will have only 1-2 training with them then to go on the match. Therefore, we will have not really time to be prepared for the match.
Experienced defenders Joash Nyango and David Kalabawino have also made the cut in the department that consists of Eric Ouma, Joseph Okumu, Johnston Omurwa, Daniel Sakari, David Owino of KCB, Bolton Omwenga, and FKF Premier League Defender of the Year, Eugene Asike.
Yeah, our first training session. I wanted to see what's going on the field, what the boys will do.
FIRAT has also tapped into the international experience of skipper Michael Olunga, Spain-based Ismael Gonzalez, and Serbian-based Richard Odada.
We will have not really time to be prepared for the match, but we will find solutions to go out.
According to the team, their expectation is to bag all 3 points.
Zimecheza hizo zimepita, at least tumepata point pa kuanzia. So hizi game inakuja against Mali, hiyo ndio sahi important na kabisa watu tunafaa kujituma tupate maximum point ndio at least kwa table pia tukae.
The qualifier match is scheduled for Thursday this week at Stadium Dagadir in Morocco. Kenya has drawn its last 2 World Cup qualifier matches against Uganda and Rwanda. Reporting for Switch TV, I'm Omar Mohammed.
Thank you, Mar Mohammed. Wishing Harambee Stars the best of luck ahead of Thursday's game. Liverpool took the lead through Sadio Mane before Phil Foden reduced the deficit. Mohamed Salah scored a stunner to put the hosts back ahead before De Bruyne grabbed another equaliser late on. James Milner filling in for Trent Alexander-Arnold at right back had a torrid half, faced with Foden and Jack Grealish and receiving little help from his teammates. De Bruyne should have put the visitors ahead 10 minutes before the break, but his close-range header went over the